And there was this really cool scene with Orson Welles narrating it, and it's from Rod Serling's original screenplay.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And Charlton Heston is in it, and the original person who was going to play
Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius, and then they were going to have Cornelius, the person who was originally going to play Cornelius and Zira, in it. And
Wait, it wasn't Maurice Evans?
It wasn't Maurice Evans. It was this man. It was like his... He was in... I forgot his name.
It wasn't Orson Welles, right?
No. In the video, I'll show a picture of who he is, so people will know who it is. But, anyways, he had to pull out of the movie because, one, the makeup was, like, basically killing him. Like, he couldn't stand wearing the makeup. And, two, he was having major heart issues. So he pulled out.
One thing I find funny is that makeup was more humanistic than what they eventually worked with.
It was. Well, it was just a basic... This was before they brought John Chambers aboard.
Right.
And
but
so...
Even still, the chimps had, like, no hair on them.
Yeah, and it was just a prototype, too. It was just a design, and it sold to producers, and thank God.
Yeah, definitely.
And, so what had happened was... They hired this new person to rewrite the screenplay because they realized that the budget was not going to allow them to make a futuristic society. Mm-hmm. And so, luckily, in my opinion, they chose instead to making the apes a futuristic society into a very backwards society.
Right.
Which honestly, I think
like that, they kind of made them like half caveman era, half like Victorian era.
Yeah, and it really sort of plays into the fact because they're a very theocratic style government.
Oh, definitely. The entire government's run by religion.
Right.
And I love Dr. Zaius' line when he says, there is no difference between faith and science, real science anyway.
Right.
It just sums up his character in a line.
It truly does. And the amount of, comments on society that entire sort of aspect of theocracy running a government and theocracy basically running your way of life, and the fact that Dr. Zaius really knows the truth about how humans blew up the Earth, basically, in a nuclear war.
Which I want to get into when we talk about Battle, because I have a plot problem, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, but, oh, shit, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. It just basically comments how the government has lied to us a lot. It doesn't matter which government. The government lies to us a lot.
Yeah, totally.
And especially back then, because this was during the midst of the Cold War.
Right smack in the middle of it.
Right. Yeah, it was like right smack dab in the middle of the Cold War. And honestly, I think the producers... Yeah. And I don't think the producers, when they gave Planet of the Apes this budget, had no idea that how much social commentary was going to be involved with the original
Well, I'm sure they had an idea.
Yeah. So, I guess the question that I'm going to have to ask you is, what do you think, basing the script in a basically backward society added or detracted from the movie?
I think it added. Because one of my favorite scenes in the film that regards Dr. Zaius' character is when Taylor makes the paper airplane and they don't know what it is. Like,
yeah. That was actually what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, because they were like, flight is a scientific impossibility. And
then he just folds the paper and just throws it.
Yeah. And then Dr. Zaius crushes it. And I'm like, he so knows what that thing does, because he's seen it before. And I just love the fact that there's so many subtle hints that what happens in the end when he reveals that he's always known that man was advanced first, really kind of, if you watch the movie again, you notice a lot more things about his mannerisms and the way he looks at things, and
especially how he's scared of Taylor.
Oh, totally. And also, I say that was my favorite scene. Did I say that was my favorite scene in the movie?
No, you just said it was like the best example.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, because my favorite scene in the movie, or one of them at least, I don't know if I could really pick one, but one of my favorite scenes is when Dr. Zaius brings Taylor into his his office, and Oh, it's just great. Just the dialogue and just the mood really just makes it one of the greatest kind of exchanges between two men in cinema history. And one of them's in orangutan makeup. That's the funny thing.
Yes.
And I don't think you could have had Dr. Zaius without Maurice Evans, because his mannerisms and his voice and just this almost the dry way he delivers some of his dialogue one thing I'm going to say is it's underacting at its finest. He does it very subtle. Like, he's not overacting just because he's in makeup.
Right.
And it just adds so much to his performance. And that's with all the apes. They all mostly play it subtle. And back then, if you were in a costume and you were in makeup, you were pretty much expected to overact. And I think this is the movie that really changed that.
Yeah, it truly is. And something else that I find funny, this film is why the Academy Awards now have a makeup section. Because this is the first time. This is the first time in cinema history that, or at least in the United States, that a man won an Academy Award for makeup.
Yeah, and it's a shame that Jack Pierce never got one.
Yeah, it truly is. But I mean, if anybody else but John Chambers were to do the makeup for this movie, it would not have worked, in my opinion. Because if it wasn't for the fact that he was a very good person with prosthetics, because apparently after the war, and even during like the Korean War, he made prosthetic limbs for a lot of wounded soldiers, and he started playing around with that stuff because of his experience with the war.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, then this movie wouldn't have worked, because it was his knowledge on how to make things look realistic that really brought the apes to life.
Oh, totally. And the movie gets a lot of crap nowadays because of what's been done with the Tim Burton movie, of course, and more recently what's been done with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. But I find it very, very realistic looking. If nothing else, you can at least suspend your disbelief that these are real creatures. Maybe that they're not apes, but at the very least that they're real organic beings and not prosthetic creatures.
Right,
you know?
and John Chambers and the makeup crew, because it wasn't just John Chambers, but, John Chambers designed it. But they even went further. And there's scenes where, like, the gorillas have their shirts off, or they have short sleeves, and they have fur up their arms.
Yes.
Which even adds more to the fact that you're believing that these are actual apes.
Yep. And I guess we'll bring this up when we talk about Beneath, but of course there's that one scene in that movie where Dr. Zaius and Ursus are in the steam room,
yeah,
and it looks pretty bad, but I guess we'll get into that when we talk about Battle.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of problems with the makeup in that one, so...
Yeah. And, and it's just funny, because when I was watching a documentary on the making of the Planet of the Apes, the original, apparently what had happened was that the separation of social classes actually happened in reality. The people who dressed up as the savage humans ate with the humans. The people who dressed up like gorillas ate with the gorillas, and the people who dressed up like chimpanzees and orangutans sat with chimpanzees and orangutans. And apparently it wasn't staged.
Oh my god.
And they just automatically started doing it.
I'm sure it wasn't like, they hated each other or anything, because they have scenes together, and
yeah.
I don't know, maybe it was just kind of to amuse each other.
No, it was just weird because it just comments on, again, like the human nature that you sit with people that are kind of like you. Like, even me in the lunchroom, I sit with people that like me. People who I consider, or at least somewhat like me.
Yeah, me too.
The entire film is just full of comments on how society works, and the branches of government, and the branches of science. Yeah. It's just full of those references.
Yeah, and the thing is that this is one of those movies that it has social commentary in it, but the social commentary isn't the only point. Right. I think that what makes Planet of the Apes so great is that it focuses on characterization, dialogue, special effects even, and just overall ambiance first, and then the social commentary just comes in as a way of course. The writing in this movie is some of the best I've ever seen.
It truly is, because this is one of those few cases in cinema history that the more times you watch it, now, every single time you watch it, you notice something new.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely for me. And that's for any of the Apes movies. That's not just for the original, but for any of them.
Yes, this is definitely true. And I also just want to bring up quickly Jerry Goldsmith's amazing score.
Oh, one of the most memorable soundtracks in cinema history.
Yeah, like, honestly, my father hates the soundtrack, but
I can understand why.
It's just so unique. And in an interview with Jerry Goldsmith, he was even like, my orchestra was just made up of a few brass instruments from all around the world and pots and pans.
Yeah, that's definitely... Well, the thing is that he's going for a very savage and almost jungle kind of sound.
He was going for, he said he was going for an Alien Planets type of soundtrack. Like, this is something very alien to what we're used to hearing.
And I always hear the music in this compared to Star Trek.
It's not. I don't think it's anywhere near close.
Well, I mean, I hear people say, like, oh, you know that scene where Kirk fights the lizard? It sounds like that. And I can see that.
Oh, the series. Okay, I thought you were meaning the movies, and I was like...
Oh, no, not at all. I'm talking about the TV series, TOS.
No, they were both made at around the same time.
Well, yeah. And that's the whole time when space travel and time travel became very popular in cinema. And the funny thing is that this isn't technically space travel.
Right.
At the end, anyway. Like, in the beginning, it's like, oh, this is a planet of the apes, and that's not really true.
Yes. Just my favorite case of Jerry Goldsmith's power on the music. Like, this movie would have been completely different. It's just one of those cases where if one of the cast members or if one of the crew of this film were different, the movie would be completely different.
Yeah.
And my favorite power that shows the power of Jerry Goldsmith's scoring is when you first see the apes.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're hunting the humans, and how the camera is shot, they're sort of keeping them at bay. Like, you just see, like, close-ups on the horses when they're coming up and, like, going in a line, and then you get the close-up of the guns just firing in a line, and the humans get shot. But then all of a sudden, when the first ape turns around, and then you just hear that horn start playing. Oh, Jesus. That scene is one of those... It's one of those cases where it gives me goosebumps every time I watch it.
Me too.
And it's one of the best executed scenes of suspense ever.
Yeah. And when I first saw the movie, I gotta be honest, I was a little bit kind of making fun of the way they reveal the apes, but now I'm not. Because I always pointed out, you can see the apes, you can still see them before they reveal them.
But they're at very long distance.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't agree with that anymore, but, when I first saw it, I was like, this isn't much of a reveal, you can see them in the distance, but really when you watch the movie, and if it's the first time, it's still like, holy shit.
Yeah, and what I really like, if you listen carefully to Jerry Goldsmith's score, is that it slowly builds up from the beginning of the movie until that scene.
Yeah.
And for a while, I was like, when the hell are the apes going to show up? And so when the apes show up, I love how the director is toying with us.
Yes.
Like, okay, come on, show the apes, show the apes, show the apes. There they are! And it's like, almost like they knew it was awesome.
Well, the first act is basically a survival movie in the desert, and I love it. Because it takes its time to flesh out Taylor, and it does that by just having him interact with the other characters. We don't know what kind of life Taylor had on Earth before he went into the rocket. Yeah. And that's a good thing. And it allows him to be developed through the dialogue and just the way he acts.
Yeah.
And it's a really brilliant thing to put him in command, because it makes us understand him even more.
But the only reason why a lot of us really are sympathizing with him is because he's truly the only one that is a human that can still talk.
Well, the thing is that I think he's a little bit more realistic in that he's so stuck up and cynical, I've heard it put.
Oh yeah, same here, but...
Well, the thing is that he goes through a character arc, kind of, and the movie kind of diverts that after he gets released and starts, giving orders again. That's a little disappointing, but, again, he's not as bad as he was. Like, he's not like, there's no point in living anymore. Like, now he wants to live.
Yeah, and you know, one of my favorite scenes of that movie, and it's a scene that a lot of people look past, is when he wrote on the piece of paper for the first time.